Alright, hello everyone. Welcome to yet another video class. Essay 2 is pretty much done at this point. You have until the 10th to get any revisions back if you want to do a revision. Now you're not required to. However, if you are one of the people out there who has not turned anything in yet, for the evaluation analysis essay, I need whatever you are going to turn in by the 10th. And if I don't have it by then I can't accept it. But whatever you do give me, it will be your final draft. So make sure that you have all the minimum requirements met and that it's in good a shape as possible, because this one will be, if you have not turned in if you've turned in a rough draft, you already have it back. You've already got it back with the grade, the comments, the suggestions. So you should be in good shape if you want to do a revision. Uh, Again, if you haven't turned anything in yet, whatever you give me is going to be the final draft. So please make sure that it's in as good a shape as possible. So here we are. The midterm is done and gone. We are on the home stretch. So looking at the schedule, I've got everything mapped out. I'm going to introduce Essay 3 in this video. I'm going to go over basically what it is, and for the next video this week I'll be getting into much more detail about Essay 3. Today I'm going to introduce it. However, we are going to be quite busy up until the end of this semester. I will post everything as I've been doing. I will post all the dates when everything is due on the D2L main page right as soon as you log into D2L and come to this class in your section. You will see all the dates and the assignment sheets there, but they're also under assignments. So you can find them in two places. So with all of that out of the way, let's get into Essay 3, which, as you can see right over here, is going to be a problem solution essay. Now, I've had to make some amendments to this semester due to it being shorter by a significant margin than it normally would be. But this and the last essay are going to be what you would normally do in this class anyway. So problem solution should sound fairly straightforward, and it is straightforward, but it's going to have some specific requirements, such as with the evaluation analysis essay. You know, if you were doing a straight up review of a product, you had to list somewhere in the essay. I asked for you to list what your criteria was. What are the standards? You know, if you say this is a great movie, well, based on what? You know, a lot of you did comparison with that essay, and you did a very, very good job with the comparisons. You compared whatever you were comparing to, for the most part, across the board. You did a very good job. You were comparing things that have enough similarities and also are in the same basic class, whether it be price range, type of product, whatever it was. So you did a very good job with that. Now, everything that you've used thus far, you will be able to use in this problem solution essay. But one thing I need to tackle right off the bat, because I saw far too much of it in the previous essay, I will say this again, and what this leads me to believe is that I don't even know if this is going to help, because it seems like a lot of people are not watching the videos, or if they are, they're watching like 3 or 4 minutes and then just leaving, clicking off, doing something, whatever it is, which, if you think about it, it's the same as, you know, coming to class, staying in class for 7 or 8 minutes, and then just getting up and walking out, and then sending me an email saying, hey, what did we go over in class? Well, this is even more different because if you send me an email saying what did we do in class, I can just say watch the video. But it's becoming apparent that a lot of people aren't, because in this second essay, I had so many of them. I mean, far too many of them that were written almost entirely, or a majority of them were written in the second person. I want to say this again. Do not use second person for these essays, okay? I've said it a bunch of times now, but I'm going to say it again. For these essays, do not use second person. That is you, your, and yours. Don't do it. Stay away from it. I spent a whole lot of time changing yous and yours to something else for you because I'm a nice person, but some of them were so full of it that eventually I just started highlighting it, saying, okay, now it's up to you. All right, you should know better by now. If you don't, that's not my fault. Do not use second person for this essay, this problem solution essay. Just don't do it. Anything that can be written in second person can be written in first or third. Now, I would prefer for you to write this essay in third person. However, first person is still going to be permissible for this problem solution. So you have two choices, first and third. Second is not an option. Please don't do it. I actually am going to start taking, it's going to start affecting the grade if you do it on this essay, so please don't. So back to the essay, problem solution. Pretty simple, right? Now remember, simple does not mean easy. This can get really tricky, y'all. It can. Because first of all, you have to define and identify the problem. What is the problem? Now that, again, this might sound easy, but you have to think about this as you have an audience here, okay? So, and your audience is just general readers with average intelligence who are adults, you know, that can make up their own minds. Your job in these essays is to persuade them as much as possible to agree with you, or to agree with most of what you're saying. That's the best outcome for any argument. Now, to explain in more detail why you need to identify the problem and explain why it's a problem, just because you think something is a problem or an issue, okay, let me add that over here. Problem / issue, because problem is a word that has a lot of negative connotations and it doesn't need to. But what is the issue? What is the problem that you are going to offer solutions to? Simply stating that something is a problem is not enough. You can't say blank, blank, blank is a problem and we need to do something about it. That's not going to get anything done. I mean, I'm kind of being funny, but not really. That's what politicians do. Politicians, a lot of politicians, I need to qualify that, many politicians, they will say something's a problem, but they won't say why it's a problem. And then they'll just say we need a whole bunch of money to solve it, without offering to explain why it's a problem and how their solutions are going to fix it or improve it. I don't want y'all to do that. I want you to explain why something is a problem. Just because you think it is doesn't mean somebody else does. And by explaining why something is a problem, you are increasing your chances of getting readers to say, oh, reader awareness is part of this. If the reader is not even aware of the issue that you are writing about, you really do need to explain it. So if your issue is something you think that a lot of people are not going to be familiar with, you might have to spend a little bit more time explaining why it's a problem, who it affects, how it affects them. All of that stuff. Just keep that in mind when you're defining your problem. Um, so that should be the first thing. That should be covered early on in the essay. In the first paragraph, you don't necessarily have to go into a huge amount of detail in your introduction explaining why it's a problem, just a couple of sentences maybe. But in your first body paragraph, you might want to spend that entire paragraph defining the problem, because you want to get the reader to sympathize, to empathize. If they are being affected by it, they can empathize with it and say, yeah, you know, or if they know someone, have a family member. So early on with these problem solution essays, you want to try to get the reader on your side. You want to get them to say, yeah, yeah, I see why that's a problem. So what can we do about it? That's where you're going to spend the rest of the essay in the following body paragraphs explaining, well, here's what we can do about it. We already know it's a problem. Now here's what we're going to do about it. That's the best way to go about it. Not the only way. I just said that's the most effective way, I believe. So that's the first thing. What is the problem? How are we going to solve it? All right. So that's step one. Okay, so step two is offer Now notice I put the plural in parentheses. Most problems don't have a single solution, okay? If it's a real problem, it's probably going to need multiple angles. Different things are going to have to be done in order to solve it. Now, this is extremely important. Okay, why did I put solve in quotes? Because what I mean by solve is improve. If it's something that is lacking, you want to improve it. You want to have more of it. If it is something that is a enormous problem affecting huge amounts of people or something like that, then you want to reduce the issue. Because a lot of times major issues that are very important and very large in scope cannot be eliminated. Rarely can issues be completely eliminated. It's just really not possible to completely eliminate a problem that affects potentially millions, if not billions of people. You can't make 100% of it go away, but you can certainly improve. And if it's something that's bad in a very large number, you can reduce that number. Okay, so that's what we're looking at when we mean solve. We don't mean eradicate or get it completely done. I mean, think about things like certain diseases, illnesses that affect people around the world. We can reduce those numbers, and even when we do have so-called cures or vaccines or something, it's still very rarely, and I would say almost never, completely eradicated. There are certain, things that were around 80, 90 years ago that we thought we had gotten rid of, and then now in the, early 2000s, 2020, are starting to come back, even though we thought that they were gone. So it wasn't completely gone, but but as a world, we have dramatically reduced those numbers, dramatically reduced those numbers, which is a huge improvement, which is going to better the lives of many millions of people. While it can't affect 100%, it can be much better than it was 50 or 60 years ago. So that's what I mean by solve. I mean improve the situation, reduce if it's something that's high in numbers and needs to go down. If we can bring it down significantly, that is an improvement. Okay, so and unfortunately that's for the most part reality. So that's what I want you to focus on in your solutions, is to make things better, make the problem less, make it less of a problem, because most of the time we can't make it go away. Now, the next thing you want to focus on is to make sure the problem. Am I spelling that right? Yeah, see, I still know how to spell. Spell check messed my spelling up because I rely on it so much. Make sure the problem is manageable. Now, what does that mean? Make sure the problem is manageable within your essay. Okay, these are 3 to 5 page essays, y'all. If you pick a problem that is so huge that it would take volumes, thousands upon thousands of pages, you're not going to be able to even define the problem in 3 to 5 pages. So the problem has to be manageable. So I'm just going to put not going to happen. All right, if you try to do this, you're not going to solve it. This is a huge problem, okay? World hunger. Okay, and I'm not being, well, I'm kind of being facetious. I would use a different phrase that begins with a smart and ends with an A, but I'm not doing that. I'm illustrating why you have to make your problem manageable. So I'm going to use this example of world hunger, okay? Yes, that's a problem. World hunger is a huge, enormous problem, but you, me, no one on planet Earth, no matter how smart, no matter how resourceful, no matter how amazing, is going to solve world hunger in a 3 to 5 page essay. It's just not going to happen. It will not happen. Now, could you start off with something as huge, as enormous as world hunger, as an idea? I say, hey, yeah, well, sure you could. So it's kind of like that. I think it's kind of cliche at this point, that think globally, act locally, but it does have some merit to it. So if we do say that we want to do something like world hunger, what could we do? Okay, we could go from world to local. All right. So let's say I live in Grayson, but I honestly know a lot more about Lawrenceville than I do actually Grayson, even though I've lived here for quite a while. But let's just say, let's just use Lawrenceville as an example, okay? Now, we all know that this is a fact. There are hungry people in Lawrenceville, and I don't mean like, man, let's go to Wendy's, I need a burger. I mean people who are malnourished. Okay, that's a fact. We know that. We may know somebody. It might be our family, somebody in our family. So we can all relate to that. That's something that we can actually see. That's something that we can experience in our little local community of Lawrenceville. Um, so let's go from world hunger. Let's trim it down and say so I'm going to focus on Lawrenceville. All right. So that's good, but Lawrenceville's pretty big, yo. Lawrenceville has a pretty big population. So I want to narrow it down even further. So we want to kind of be going from here, we want to just keep narrowing until we get it to a fine point that we can actually work with. Okay, so now I'm down from the entire globe of world hunger, I'm down to hunger in my local community of Lawrenceville. I want to narrow it down even further. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on, okay, so, and we'll just say Larryville, and something that I even have to qualify this statement, y'all. Almost everybody cares about. And yes, it's a sad thing that I have to qualify that, but that's a very good example of why I say don't use absolutes, because unfortunately there are people out there who really don't care about children or anything or anyone for that matter. We do, okay? I know you all care about children. We do. So I'm going to say we've gone from world hunger to local Lawrenceville, and then I'm going to even narrow it further and focus on children in Lawrenceville who are malnourished, who are hungry, who may not have, may go, there are plenty of people, children in Lawrenceville who go eat every other day or may eat once a day. We know this. It's a terrible, sad fact, but we all know this. So I'm going to focus on the children in Lawrenceville who are malnourished, who are hungry. Okay. Now notice I'm not saying starving, because that's literal starvation is going to be an extremely rare case in Lawrenceville. Extremely rare. Doesn't mean it's non-existent, but that's not what I'm focusing on. I'm just focusing on children who are not getting enough to eat in Lawrenceville. So now I've established my problem, okay? And even for something like this, y'all, believe it or not, yikes. Even for something like this that seems so obvious that you might feel that you don't have to do a lot of extra work to get the readers on your side, you still do, guys and gals and whomever else. You still do. I know it's terrible, but you still do. Even if it's a problem like children being hungry in Lawrenceville, you still have to establish that it's a problem. Now, how would I do that? So I would find statistics. You could find those. You could find those. They are available. And you could put in a line of and I'm making this up, so don't quote me in your essay. And I'm not saying to do your essay on this. I'm just saying, for example, let's say if I found real statistics from Gwinnett County School Board that through a study that was done locally found that 1 out of every 8 children in Lawrenceville Public Schools in Gwinnett County eats 2 meals or fewer per day. And they're not nutritious and it's not enough food. Okay, that would be proof, that would be evidence that there is a problem. So I would use something like that to establish it. So now that I've established the problem, I have to propose solution. Okay, now we're not going to be able to eradicate it. Even if there is, which there is enough food for every child in Lawrenceville, that's pretty much a fact. There is enough food for every child in Lawrenceville to have 3 squares a day. That is a fact. I don't need to even look that up. We could go to any we could go to any number of grocery stores that are all over the place in Lawrenceville and find enough food for every single child. Okay, so we already know that's a fact. However, when we propose solutions, we have to realize that even with all that being available, it's not going to be eradicated. There's going to be parents, guardians that are negligent. Kids are going to fall through the cracks. That's going to happen. But what can we do to reduce this? Okay, there are certain things that you as an individual could do. And you're the author of this essay, so you could say things that what you're going to do. So what could be one thing that we could do locally to help kids that go to bed hungry every night? Well, we could do something like a food drive. Have something like a canned food drive. Now, that's going to be really difficult to do now with what's going on with the whole, situation, but we could do something. Some of y'all may go to have religious facilities you go to, churches, mosques, whatever, synagogue, whatever. Your local religious foundations can help. You could do a food drive through church, mosque, synagogue, whatever. You could do something like that. We're getting close to Thanksgiving. That's a holiday where a lot of people like to give. It's right before, Christmas and all that stuff. So you could organize something. It could be something as simple as just requesting donations. You could do it through, you could start something like do something through PayPal. You could do something through, like, I don't know how GoFundMe works, but I know it's a you could try something through GoFundMe. I don't know. You could organize online. You could do it through Facebook. You could try to organize something through Facebook. I don't know. Be creative. Come up with something. You could get a group of your friends if you have a club. There's all kinds of clubs. It could be anything. You could organize. So food drive, anything that's organized that you could do. Would that help? Yes. Would it solve it? No, unfortunately, but it would help. So you could do something like that. So that could be one possible solution. But remember, you don't want to just have one and one only in most cases. You want to offer alternatives. So that could be, and you could use, body paragraphs. Here's the first possible solution. Here's the second possible solution. So what could be a second one? I don't know. You could do the food. You could volunteer. You could volunteer at food kitchens. They have food kitchens all over. Soup kitchens is what they used to be called, but I believe that's not politically correct now. But you could volunteer at food kitchens where you go out and help people. There are certain people. I know that my friend does. She organizes a thing every year for the is it Susan G. Komen, I think, the breast cancer aware walk. And the jog, the 10K, whatever it is, I give her stuff every year for that, and do stuff every year for that, and she just does that on her own. She doesn't have anything to do with she doesn't work for the foundation. She has a regular job. She just does volunteers to work for that thing every year and give to it, whatever. I think that's what it's called. I don't know what it is. It's something that they do in Atlanta. But my point is that you can do things through volunteer work. Is that going to kill it and destroy it and make it go away and eradicate it? No. Is it going to help? Absolutely. Are you making the situation better? Yes. Okay, so you could do something like that. What else? You just be creative with this. And again, this is not your assignment. You do not, and in fact, I would kind of prefer you not to write about this, because I'm pretty much giving you ideas here to use. But whatever your problem is, come up with creative solutions that are also going to improve it. Now, one thing that you have to do with your solutions, okay, you have to address possible drawbacks, because again, I have to qualify this, but I don't think I need to qualify it too much. Almost everything that we give requires that something be taken from something else. So anytime we give something, we're taking something from somewhere else in order to make that happen. Now, that could cause problems that are different, that have nothing to do with the thing we're trying to solve, but then by solving problem A, we've created problem B. So you really need to think about possible drawbacks and address them. Yeah, this could possibly do this and this and this, but in the end, what we're trying to do is going to outweigh the drawbacks. That's your goal. You want to outweigh the drawbacks. You want to, you don't want to pretend they don't exist, because that could end up really hurting what you're proposing. Don't pretend that the drawbacks don't exist. Address the drawbacks and say, yes, we know this is possible or this could happen, but look, what it's going to do, even if this does happen in the off chance, this is still going to be a much better situation overall. Okay, so just keep that in mind. But again, just address them, say, here's what it is, here's why it's not that big of a deal, let's get back to what we're focused on. Leave it behind and move on. Move back to what your solutions are. And then at the end, before you get to your conclusion, when you just tie everything up in a nice bow, you are going to focus on the benefits. You're going to say, look, this is the problem. These are my proposed solutions, and here's what the end result will be if we do this. Here's why it's going to be a good thing. Focus on the benefits. Why this is good. And that's it. So the structure and the steps, because this is a process, this is a step-by-step process. So as you see, I start off with personal experience, I move on to analysis and evaluating something, and then now we're establishing a problem and proposing solutions. These all build on each other. These all are adding up to each other. So that's the process for this essay. You have to identify the problem, explain why it's a problem, and then your thesis is going to be XYZ is a problem, but it can be reduced or improved if we do ABC. There's your thesis statement, there's your outline, then your body paragraphs are going to give, the first thing we will do is blank, 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 and it will do this, it will do this, it will do this. Possible drawbacks might be this, but here's why it's not that bad. Then we're going to do this, 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 and explain the benefits and why it's good. And at the end, you're just going to restate, give us a nice little summary of what you just talked about, and restate your thesis. As you can see, XYZ is a big problem and has been for a long time. But if we do ABC and work together, we can make this situation much better for everyone that it affects. Boom. That's it. You're done. I know, it's real easy for me to explain it in these step-by-step format, but it's going to be more difficult to do. However, there's got to be something that you feel strong enough about, that you think it needs to be a problem, that you think this problem needs to be solved, and you know how to do it. Remember, it does not have to be something that's earth-shattering or it's going to change the world. It can be something that only affects, that's like a personal problem for you, but you know affects other people. What if your problem is procrastination? What if that's it? What if you wait till the last minute, or wink, wink, past the last minute when it was due last week, and then shoot your professor an email and say, hey, I don't know what happened, but I know that essay was due last week, but can I turn it in? Well, that's procrastination. It's not a good thing. Maybe you could focus on something like that. You know, there's a lot of things that you can do. So remember, you don't have to be savior of the universe like Flash Gordon. It can be something that's small that only affects you. But it also affects other people, like that when I just said procrastination. You might focus on procrastination only because it's affecting you, and oops, you're not getting as good a grades as you want. And if you could stop procrastinating as much, you'd probably get your work done and your grades would improve. Well, guess what? There are millions and millions and millions of other people who have that same problem. I procrastinate, y'all. Everybody does from time to time. So again, at that point, you're just giving good advice that's going to help you, but benefit is that it could help a lot of other people too. So think about it with an open mind. Think about the problem. Think about how you'd solve it, and get ready to get it on paper. I'm not assigning it officially tonight or for today's class, but on Wednesday and Thursday, I got to make sure I got my dates right here. Yes, on yes, on Wednesday and Thursday of this week, that'll be the 7th and the 8th, I will be officially assigning your problem solution essay. That's when the real assignment sheet's going to be up on D2L and all that. But you know what it is if you've watched this video, so there's no reason why you can't start it. 3 to 5 pages. 3 full pages is the absolute bare minimum. You are allowed to use up to 3 outside sources on it if you want to, but outside sources are not required. Okay? You can do this all from what you got up here. And that's about it for this one. So I'm going to sign off, and I will just see you guys in the next video. Take care.